What's happening, guys, and welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is in its final week of wrapping up, and we're loving it so far. Seeing John Walker go crazy with Cap's shield is both heartbreaking and exhilarating. But of course, he had to go and take the serum as well, making him a formidable threat. So while other super soldiers continue to pop in the MCU, let us now take a look at some other super soldiers from the comics. Without further ado, I'm Taylor McWatters, and here are the top 10 most powerful super soldiers. Let's do it. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Man-Thing. Dr. Ted Sallis made his first appearance in Savage Tales issue 1. He was a biochemistry professor who'd worked at Empire State University, and he was originally recruited by the US Army to help with Project Sulphur. The goal was to help find a solution so soldiers could survive biochemical warfare. So Sallis helped develop something called Serum SO2, and it gave immunity to all toxic biochemicals. Only the thing was, it turned these users into these, well, man-things. AIM eventually caught wind of this and wanted their sticky fingers in the mix, so after walking into an AIM ambush, Ted made a break for it to go to Dr. Kurt Connor's lab. But while on the move, he injected the last bit of serum into himself, burned the evidence, and then crashed his car into a swamp. Now, a swamp that has magical energy mixed with this one-of-a-kind super serum, now we get this guy. We get this Man-Thing, and he's awesome. As far as super soldiers go, he's maybe the most unique. He can ooze himself through fences. I mean, come on. He can control plant life and can fly on his own. I mean, you could try punching Man-Thing, but your fist would probably go through him. Yuck. And before we continue on with this list of super soldiers, guys, if you want to go ahead and give this video a like, that would be awesome. It's super helpful for our page. You guys are the best. Thanks so much for watching. Now let's get right back into this list. No wasted time. Number 9, Mockingbird. Barbara Morse. She made her comic book debut back in Astonishing Tales issue 12. She studied at Georgia Institute of Technology, specializing as well in biology. She worked with Dr. William Calvin on Project Gladiator. Now, the project was set up to recreate the Super Soldier Serum that created Captain America, but during this time, S.H.I.E.L.D. trained Bobby to be a spy, with a cool nickname as well, like Agent 19. I mean, she was killing it with gymnastics, so they made a pretty good call there. She became the hero Mockingbird in the 80s with Marvel Team Up issue 95. And in 2011, she finally became a super soldier in the New Avengers issue 13. When she was on the verge of dying, she was injected with this other version of the serum, and it saved her. And at the same time, it of course gave her super soldier abilities, which are always fun. Number 8, Sentry. Making his first appearance in Sentry issue 1, Robert Reynolds was a struggling addict who made his way into a laboratory and discovered something called the Golden Serum. And this was, of course, another version of the Super Soldier Serum, but it was, of course, a little different. He consumed it, and then he got the surprise of a lifetime when he was then given the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. That plus a homemade costume equals, well, superhero. Let's do it. Robert fought alongside the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and then, of course, the New Avengers. Things changed for Robert when Norman Osborn decided to put together a team of his own. That team was the Dark Avengers. I feel like we're getting close to seeing the Dark Avengers in the MCU. Either that or the Thunderbolts. One of the two. Hopefully Thunderbolts. It feels like Thunderbolts. Number 7, Red Skull. He made his first debut back in Captain America Comics issue 7. Johann Schmidt, aka the Red Skull, has been a pretty powerful villain in the MCU as well. After all, he's now the protector of the Soul Stone, which is cool, but it's a little boring. Definitely looks a little boring up there. But his origins are the opposite of boring. Now, of course, being the main enemy to Captain America, Red Skull has too dabbled in the serum department. Now, most of the time, he was just a great villain. He didn't necessarily need a serum to do his job. He was an evil mastermind. He was doing great. Now, it wasn't until Dr. Zola transferred his subconscious to a clone of Captain America, and now he was an evil genius who just so happened to be super strong as well, which is just what we need. So in Captain America issue 350, after months of manipulation from the resurrected Red Skull, Steve Rogers confronts and defeats his replacement, John Walker, another super soldier who I'll mention later on in this list. He also had to battle the Red Skull, but at this point it's a little tough because the Red Skull is now a clone Steve Rogers. I mean, it's exciting, but it's also a little confusing when you're looking at it on the page. So not only does he look like Steve Rogers, but he's just as strong. With the help of his dust of death, his red mask shrunk, and now that was his permanent face. So it was a little easy to tell who was who after that point. Yeah, lovely. Number 6, Omega Red. Arkady Rossovich, aka Omega Red, first appeared in comics with X-Men Volume 2, Issue 4. He was born a Russian mutant, and he was pretty intense right off the bat. His family was afraid of him even without the powers really kicking in just yet. He grew up and joined the Russian army, but he also dabbled in the life of crime on the side. That's how most of these guys do it. Now, the Red Army caught on to all these horrible crimes. They started figuring out that he was behind them, and they tried to execute him, but his mutant powers didn't allow that from happening. Dazzler once described him as an Omega level mutant. He's not to be played around with. So they figured, hey, this guy might be perfect to test a new Russian Super Soldier Serum. He already had this ability called the Death Factor, and basically the Death Factor is where Omega Red can emit lethal death spores from his body, and he has to get rid of them too, or else he'll just harm himself. So he was already this crazy mutant, and then he got the serum on top of that, and now he's got super strength, super speed, and he was also given metal tentacles in his arms too. Number 5, Bucky Barnes. Near the end of World War II, Bucky and Cap were trying to disarm a bomb on a plane while taking down Baron Zemo. Now the bomb went off, hurling Steve and Bucky into the water, but Cap, he was fine. He came out of this pretty easy. I'll explain what happened to him later on in this list, although you probably already know. He remained frozen. He just hung out and chilled. Literally. But Bucky wasn't so lucky. His body fell into the freezing waters, and at the time, a Soviet spy submarine was in the area crossing the English Channel, so they scooped him up, fixed him up a fancy new arm, brainwashed him, and turned him into this brutal assassin. With the help of Hydra's new variant of the Super Soldier Serum, he now has all these incredible abilities that make him a fierce fighter. But he doesn't remember how he knows these things or how he can do these things. That's what makes Bucky so unique in the MCU and in the comics. This is Steve's right-hand man. This is heartbreaking. One of the biggest turning points of Marvel Comics was the introduction of the Winter Soldier. I love seeing him start to settle on the good guy's side. I mean, fixing up the boat with Sam, tossing the vibranium frisbee back and forth. It's great. They're just chatting about life. It's lovely. It's great to see how far Sebastian Stan's come in the MCU as well. Like, shout out to Sebastian Stan. He's killing him. Super underrated still. Number 4, Nomad. Jack Monroe entered the comics with Young Men issue 24, and during the time in history where Cap had been frozen, they used Jack to explain some of the time between those big stories. So in Captain America 155, the secret origin of Captain America, we get some answers. So we have William Burnside as well. He was a professor who was inspired by Captain America, and he came into contact with a Super Soldier Serum, and he and Jack Monroe became the new Cap and Bucky. Jack was the Bucky and William was Cap. They both took the serum and they both got enhanced abilities. Now they did some good work as a team, but the only thing was a year later things started to go wrong with the Super Serum. Cap started to become a paranoid schizophrenic, so the government froze him. They put him in a cryogenic suspension, because that's what you do to super soldiers when you don't know what to do with them. He went from being Captain America to becoming the villain. I mean, it sounds all too familiar right now in the MCU. William and his Bucky Barnes sidekick Jack Monroe were both in custody of Dr. Faustus, and they brainwashed William to become the Grand Director, the leader of the hate group called the National Force, and Jack went on to become Nomad. Number 3, US Agent. John Walker is causing quite the stir in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and in the comics, he of course was no different. After he paid a visit to the Power Broker, the Madman now has super abilities. Now the Power Broker is being teased throughout Falcon and Winter Soldier currently, but what do they do exactly? What's their deal? Well, they trade their knowledge of technology for high-paying customers who want to undergo this risk to get some sort of super ability. It's like a gamble. Half these people don't even survive. More than half of them don't survive. Issue 333 of Captain America was titled The Replacement. This is when the government is weighing their options on who should be the next to lead the nation. Now this is after Steve Rogers stepped away, so they go with the guy who just launched a dude off a building, this crazy US agent John Walker, who at the time was first introduced as Super Patriot, so he was always on board with the super life in one way or another. Number 2, Isaiah Bradley. Currently played by Carl Lumbly in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Isaiah Bradley made his comic book debut in Truth, Red, White, and Black issue 1. This was after the US Army lost the secrets of their Super Soldier Serum with Dr. Erskine. Now they still wanted to create more super soldiers, so they did this. Colonel Walker Price and Dr. Wilfred Nagel took 300 soldiers, including Isaiah Bradley, against their will and used them as test subjects for this new serum. It was awful. They had sent the soldiers' family members invalid letters stating that they were no longer alive. They were so shady and awful and mean to them. Now only a handful survived this process, and they went on to be this covert Black Ops team. But after a few missions, Isaiah was the only survivor left. Now this is one of the most compelling elements of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is the introduction of Isaiah Bradley. It's emotional, it's gripping, it's truthful, and in the most recent episode, Isaiah reflects on the times that he would cross paths with the Winter Soldier, and how his use with the serum was the only reason that he was surviving those encounters. And finally, number 1, you guessed it, Steve Rogers. Came into Marvel Comics, of course, with Captain America issue 1. Now he grew up during the Great Depression in New York City. He was a scrawny little man, but he had a big heart nonetheless. Now both of his parents had passed away while he was still young, and he tried to enlist in the army, but he was rejected because of his frailty. Now when General Chester Phillips overheard him talking about how much he wanted to serve, he deemed the boy was the chosen one for this top secret project called Operation Rebirth. This is where Dr. Abraham Erskine, and the creator of the serum, injected Steve, and voila, now we have Captain America. Steve was put through physical and tactical training afterwards. He even became a skilled gymnast in the meantime, because you know, flips are cool. His first mission as a super soldier was to suit up in the red, white, and blues and take down the Red Skull. Now the mantle of Captain America is finally being handed over to Sam Wilson, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we're looking forward to seeing more Captain America stories come to life on the big screen, this time with Anthony Mackie holding the shield. Well guys, there you have it. Which other super soldiers are you hoping to see in future Marvel projects? Let us know in the comments down below. As always, thank you so much for watching Top 10 Nerd. I've been your host, Taylor McWatters, and we'll see you next time. Peace.